As we transition to your time at Illinois, we now come on the darkest time for Illinois, because at that point, I believe the Illinois program, the Flying Illini, the program, I think at this time, the opportunity for Lou Henson to win a national title or two was stolen from him.
Yes.
By the NCAA, because if you look and you do your research, the first, I believe it might have even been Mike Slive who was the guy who made the announcement, but
it was.
But the first line was, I'm not going to quote it exactly, but I'm going to paraphrase, is, although there was no evidence of wrongdoing, the number of allegations has made us bring in the lack of institutional control, which is their way of slapping down a program as hard as they can. I will tell you, Deon, as a fan and as a overly competitive big baby, I didn't watch college basketball for about 5 years, not a single game. So I may be the only diehard Illini fan who has never seen you play.
Well, let's start from the beginning and take it from the beginning. This story has been told a million times, so we don't really have to delve too deep into it. But when you have a coach and he has friends that work for the NCAA and they bring forth allegations, I always thought in this country you were innocent until proven guilty. And proof is what's important. Facts are what's important, not conjuncture, not, oh, I thought this happened in my feelings or this way or that way. It's based on proof. So you made a statement about, many possibly winning one or two national titles. Man, I will give up being the all-time leading scorer and at whatever point the other awards that I would have had to have had an opportunity to play in the Final Four, to win the championship. And I believe we would have been there if I had been able to play. The remaining guys from that Flying Illini team, what did they lack? They lacked an interior presence after Lowell Hamilton was gone. If I'm playing, I believe we're back in the same position with an opportunity to win. And to go even further, the guys that we missed out on because we went on probation, and of course, like you mentioned when we were off air, everyone's heard the names, the Juwan Howards, the Conzo Martins, the Michael Finleys, and people of that stature, players of that stature. We're definitely in the running to win at least one or two championships. And then what it also did was, and this is probably the saddest of things for me, because Jimmy Collins and I, as you know, were really close.
Yep.
My father was not around. Bob Hambrick and I became really close once I graduated from Simeon. Not so much when I played at Simeon, simply because, he was a disciplinarian. He was, he pushed us. At the end of my time when I was at Illinois and afterwards is when Coach Hambrick's and I relationship got really close. So I was closer to Jimmy Collins than I was to almost any man walking on this earth. And so to see his career tarnished and his opportunity to be the first African-American coach at the University of Illinois taken away from him because, again, allegations, and that most of those allegations had nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Which is even worse. I think was a slap in the face, and he was definitely, it was an injustice to both him, myself, and all of the other players that were on those staffs, because there's no reason in the world Kendall Gill shouldn't have had an opportunity to win the national championship, or Marcus Liberty.
Yep.
Or maybe if I'm playing and we don't go on probation, maybe Nick Anderson doesn't go to the NBA. Maybe he stays. And Steve Bardo, who you had on as a guest, maybe those guys have an opportunity to do what I believe, if not for a missed block out, have their national championship, and the university have its national championships. I think, yes, Mike Slive, rest his soul. and the other cohorts that were with him stole a lot of opportunities from the University of Illinois.
Yeah, and I always felt to this day, Lou Henson never got the credit for being the coach that he was. And it was stolen from him because Bobby Knight and Digger Phelps wanted to go knock on doors at headquarters. And I just, at that point, it's frustrating because there's a man who was always a class act
Yes.
and did things the right way, ran the program well. And the funny thing was, is as somebody who was around town, growing up in Muhammad and in high school, back in those days, people don't understand that if you were going to go pro at the end of the season, you could get a loan against the fact that you were going pro. So
True.
you always knew who was going pro because that person who didn't have anything would all of a sudden have a car.
Right.
And so it's there's nothing wrong going on. It was not like Eric Dickerson showing up with a car as a there's a big difference between actual cheating and implied cheating. And you know what I think drove Knight over the top was Illini's defense was better than Indiana's defense, and I just don't think he could handle that. I really think that was the beginning of it.
Oh, no doubt. Of course, Coach Knight recruited me when I was at Simeon, and I will not say anything to tarnish him as well because I had a lot of respect for Coach Knight. Digger Phelps a little bit less, but Coach Knight was a competitor, and he wanted to be in control and in charge of the Big Ten. He wanted to be the best team in the Big Ten. And like you're talking about offense, talking about defense, talking about recruiting, and he was not. That was the University of Illinois. He came into Illinois and he recruited me. He recruited Nick Anderson because I remember seeing him at Simeon. He recruited Marcus Liberty and everyone else. And then you lose the 4 Mr. Basketballs in a row to your rival, the guy that started off in the beginning as a friend of yours, and then the relationship sour, and now he's not. So why he did what he did, I agree. That could be the reason why. But I'd really agree with you wholeheartedly that Lou Henson is one of the best coaches I've ever played for. One of the cleanest coaches that I've ever played for or even heard of. The guy didn't even curse, let alone do something that was totally out of character. And this is what I don't think the university at the time backed him the way they should have. They didn't back myself, and I clearly said, I've said it many times, they didn't back me or Coach Collins the way they should have. But having been an athletic director and having that, I understand you got to protect the brand. I understand now. Let me say that you have to protect the brand. But I think it does tarnish a little bit the reputations of people. And I'll say this is outside of the University of Illinois. Our fan base and our supporters, I don't think ever wavered one bit. I don't believe they ever questioned, at least as far as I know, one bit, the character of Lou Henson, Jimmy Collins, or myself. And that is what you want. Unfortunately, outside people,
They control a little too much.
My mama say, if you don't have something good to say, don't say nothing at all.
Yeah. Well, I had several subscribers ask me to talk a little bit about that, so I apologize for bringing that up. I know
Oh no, no need for apology.
you have to talk about it all the time.